All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining National NISLA's Chapter Leadership Summit. This event is designed to bring chapter leaders together to talk about topics relevant to running a local NISLA chapter, as well as leadership in general. My name is Kinsley Brewis, and I serve as the National NISLA Vice President for Student State Officers for the Southern Region. And I am a fourth-year audiology doctoral student at Auburn University. I'd like to also start us out by introducing the other VPs for SSOs. So we'll start with Leela.
Thank you, Kinsley. My name is Layla Braggs, and this is my first year as a VP for Student State Officers for the Northeastern region. And I'm a first-year speech language pathology student at Towson University. And we're also joined by Olivia, sorry. Olivia.
Thanks, Layla. My name is Olivia Sozio. This is my first year as a VP for Student State Officers for the Western Region. I'm a first-year speech language pathology graduate student at San Diego State University.
While we can't do our traditional icebreaker with a group of this size, we ask you to participate in our word cloud to get a sense of where we are all from. Please use the link in the chat to respond to a few prompts. All right, let's first just see what state everyone is from. Wow, I love being able to see where we're all joining from and that we have so many different states represented. That's wonderful. Now enter your chapter leadership position. Wow, this is a great cross section of leadership. We're so thankful that you're all attending today. Finally, we just have one more word cloud. So please enter one word that sums up how you're feeling about the 2026-2027 school year. This is great. I'm so excited to see that we have all different feelings and it really helps us all feel connected. It's so affirming to see student leaders who are ready to take on the year. Thank you all for sharing with us. Now I invite our National NISLA president to welcome you all today.
Thank you, Kinsley. Hi, everyone. I'm Zion Owens, National NISLA's president for this year. I'm a second year SLP graduate student at Hampton University, and we want to give you all a huge thank you for coming out to the National NISLA Chapter Leadership Summit on this Sunday afternoon. The community that National NISLA creates is incredibly infectious. Chapters help students make new friends, learn about future careers at different events, and give back through service opportunities. Together, we are NISLA Strong. Taking a quick look back at the impact of chapters that have received chapters honors last year, we made some incredible strides, and we know we will do so much more this year. We'd like to give a huge shout out to our event sponsor, AMN Healthcare. We couldn't have pulled this event off without them. And at this time, I'd like to turn the mic over to Kristen from AMN Healthcare. Thank you, Kristen.
All right, thanks, Zion. I'm Kristen Bruce, and I am an SLP. Again, I work for AMN Healthcare. I've been with them for about 3 years. And prior to that, I was with another company that does teletherapy set staffing specifically. So I personally was an SLP in the schools system for 13 years, working in person. I'm here in Colorado. So that really has always been my focus in my career, is working really all the way through birth through 21 population. But I did transition over to the teletherapy side 13 years ago, and I was practicing as a teletherapist way back starting in 2012, long before, a lot of other people even knew it existed. I didn't know it existed until I first started, but really fell in love with that service delivery modality and the ability to access students to help provide equity of services across the country. So that really became my focus. And I have the opportunity to work with school districts and with really clinicians across all disciplines, SLPs, OTs, PTs, school psychologists across the country as we work to fill positions. So AMN, as in the name, healthcare, and for anyone who's not familiar, started in the 80s, really strictly as a travel nurse company. So that hence the healthcare name, but expanded into really all spaces for services. I specifically work on the school side of the business. And again, I work with school districts in almost all 50 states and have really the chance to see how things look. I've seen a lot change. There's so much need for everything that you are all training to do. So there's a lot of job security out there because we have a lot of people, a lot of kids who need services, and so I really love having the opportunity to be a part of that in helping school districts to get services to their kids. That's really why that's the focus. So yeah, just thank you for joining. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. Um, I do, as long as it's been since this happened, I do remember, my own excitement at starting my graduate program. And yeah, it's an amazing time and there's just so much, yeah, there are just incredible things happening in our field. And I know that we have such a broad scope of, you know, between speech language pathology, audiology, so many different directions that you can go. So I know that some of you may not, you may have a very clear focus of what direction you want to go in, and others, I think, I started with a focus thinking I was going to work with adults and really interested in, working with adults who had aphasia and, rehab and then at some point I shifted over and decided that what I really was most excited to do was to work with children. So it's just a really exciting time. So happy to be here. And we are giving away a gift certificate, an Amazon gift certificate. So anyway, get entered for that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over so that you can get started with what you're all here to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and we're so glad to have you here with us. And thank you all to all the participants that are here on this afternoon. We are super excited. Use this time wisely to gather ideas for your chapter, get inspired, and just share and connect with everyone that's on the call today. I will now turn it back over to Olivia to take a look at National NSLA.
Thanks, Zion. We want to make this learning fun, so throughout the day, we'll provide information that can be used to win prize at the end via a Kahoot. Additionally, we are dropping a link in the chat right now to a Padlet that you can use at any time to ask questions you have about any information. We will answer as many as we can today, and we will use the others to build communication to support chapters throughout the year. National NSLA serves over 10,000 students in audiology, CSD, and SLP programs, and more than 350 chapters. Our mission revolves around us as students. We want all students to feel empowered and confident no matter where they are in their CSD journey. Let's take a look at the focus of our summit today, the chapters. There are more than 350 NSLA chapters at universities across the U.S., including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. While local NSLA chapters are affiliated with National NSLA, they each operate independently. They have their own budgets, advisors, and e-board structures. We ask that chapters affiliate with National NSLA office every year when new leadership takes office to maintain updated contact information so that we could support chapters. National NSLA works extremely close with chapters throughout the year, particularly through the Chapter Honors Program. One thing that you may have noticed is that we refer to the national organization as National NSLA. We know this is redundant, but it's our way of distinguishing the National Association from our local NSLA chapters.
All right, take a second look and be sure that you know which region you are in. We have the West, Central, South, or Northeast. This comes up on our chapter affiliation form and chapter honors applications. Remember that we have student state officers, or SSOs, in each region and covering every state. They are a great resource for you, especially during the school year. This year, we have 50 SSOs supporting chapters. Please take a moment to note which SSOs support your state. All right, at this time, I would now like to ask the student state officers who are currently here from the Western region to use the raise hand feature so that others can see you. All right, thank you guys. Please lower your hands. Now will the central SSOs that are here raise their hands? Thank you. You can lower your hands now. Now we'll have the South SSOs raise their hands. All right, thank you guys. And now the Northeast SSOs. Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our SSOs who can be here today. You'll all get to meet with them in our regional meeting shortly. Now that you've seen the SSOs who are in attendance, we wanted to recognize any executive council members that are in attendance as well. They are raising their hands now, and you will notice their NISLA background and title in their Zoom name. All right, thank you guys from our EC. You can put your hands down. We also want to quickly introduce our national office staff as well. Alexis and Noel are joining or have joined us here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Redmond. I'm the Senior Director here at National NISLA. And first, I just want to thank you guys all for taking the time out of your weekends to join us. This is our fourth Chapter Leadership Summit, and we just so enjoy getting chapters connected, brainstorming, nurturing, and supporting one another. The National Volunteer Leadership Group is really here to create a community, and we're so happy as staff to be here to help you achieve all the goals that you set out for your chapter, but also for yourself as you pursue your degrees. If you ever need anything, please reach out to nisla-org. We're happy to support you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Noelle Skavirsky, the program chapter manager, and it is so wonderful to see so many chapters here in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis and Noel. Previewing the afternoon, we are about to have information sessions. After regional breakouts and then a break, we will have 2 tracks for our breakout rooms. One will be focused on building and expanding your chapter, and the other will be focused on going for gold and chapter honors. Presenters will go between these interactive breakout rooms to share best practices and answer any questions that you may have. After a break at 3 p.m., our Kahoot will award one $50 Amazon gift card to the top winner, and then lead to the final panel session on what I wish I knew and close with a wrap-up segment. As a former SSO, I know how important it is to start the year off right. Now we're going to do a quick walkthrough of our website, affiliation form, downloadable resources, and the chapter honors application. The link to our main website is in the chat now, and we will provide you with a quick tour to get you familiar. All right. The chapters page is going to be your go-to section of the website. Here, you can check your affiliation status and find any helpful resources you might need. Our chapter toolkit has multiple links depending on your chapter's needs, management, growth, or programming. Under growth, we have a page with downloadable resources, including flyers and PowerPoints. Here, you will find our 2026-27 calendar and checklist and resources for your bulletin boards, including PDFs and PowerPoints that help explain National NISLA's member benefits, the conversion discount, and our scholarships. We know many of you encourage your members to sign up for national membership, so we encourage you to use these resources in your meetings or with your department. Also, your SSO can virtually attend a chapter meeting to ensure that your members are well prepared for their time with NISLA. Our programming resources will give you tips and resources to plan successful programs and provide key information to your chapter members. These are all real examples from other chapters, so you will find plenty of ideas that you can use. We know that each chapter has its own unique challenges for scheduling and participation. Plenty of chapters succeed in chapter honors and as active clubs with fewer meetings and prioritizing events and programs that easily align with the honors requirements. The membership page is going to be the easiest way for a student to join or renew their National NISLA membership. It also highlights the many benefits of national membership. These benefits include the NISLA to ASHA conversion discount, reduced convention registration, scholarship eligibility for both undergrad and graduate students, member honors and leadership eligibility, and our travel awards. The link to our membership page is going to be put in the chat now. And now I'm going to hand it off to discuss our chapter affiliation.
Alrighty, if you haven't already, most of you will visit the chapter affiliation page at some point in your tenure as a chapter leader. We ask that chapters affiliate with National NISLA each time new officers take over. The rules and guidelines for affiliation are at the top, and then the form is embedded below. You must fill out the form at once, and you cannot save your progress. Make sure to give us your correct chapter type, undergraduate, graduate, online, SLP, AUD, as several schools have multiple chapters. It is also important to spell email addresses correctly, as this is how we get in touch with chapter leadership. Chapters make NISLA. Your commitment to service, advocacy, scholarship, inclusion, and community made it so that 108 chapters were recognized as part of our chapter honors program last year. Yay! Thanks to sponsorship, we are able to give each member of a gold chapter a lapel pin as seen on the slide. Chapter of the Year members also received a special gift from National NISLA. Alrighty, we'll now move on to our regional meetings until 1:50 p.m. Eastern Time, and then take a screen break before our breakout room tracks. Be sure to know which region your state is in. Let us know if you need help finding a room, and we'll see you back at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome back, everyone. We will spend the next 45 minutes or so in 2 breakout rooms designed to get information and ideas from your peers. We will have 2 tracks for the breakout rooms, one focused on building/expanding your chapter, and one focused on going for gold/chapter honors. Presenters will go between these interactive breakout rooms to share best practices and answer questions. Don't forget about the Padlet that we had open for any questions that you may have. Building/expanding your chapter will meet in here, and a breakout room will open for Going for Gold. Choose whichever you would like, and we will see everyone back here for our 3 p.m. Eastern Time Kahoot giveaway and panel discussion. Enjoy!
All right, perfect. Thank you to everyone for coming to our chat on building your chapter. As a reminder, I am Kinsley, the VP for SSOs for the South, and my co-host for this room is Olivia, the VP for SSOs for the West. We will begin with chapter member recruitment, since we know that that is the foundation of building and expanding your chapter. Fortunately, we're joined today by Lauren Mitchell, who's the current member of the 2026-2027 IDEA Work Group and a past chapter vice president at Hampton University in Virginia. Lauren, can you talk about the different ways that you recruited members while at Hampton University?
Yeah, of course. So at Hampton, one of, I would say, the biggest parts of our school culture that our NISLA group got to take advantage of, was the fact that they really emphasized joining student organizations. So one way that the school did that and our student leadership program at the school did that was by hosting an organization bazaar, called like our Fall Org Bazaar, and it happened every September. And it just gave student organizations a chance to host a table in our student center and for all students really to go walk through, but mostly like new freshman students or like transfer students to come through and learn about the organizations. So we were able to recruit students that way. And then another huge way that we recruited students were through classes. So one thing I would say is that it's super important for your NISLA chapter to have a good relationship with your staff and your faculty. It was nothing for us to go into the office and say, hey, like we're hosting a NISLA event, or we're having a NISLA meeting, or we're having our very first NISLA meeting. Like, would you mind telling your classes? Um, and then I think our department chair too also really emphasized having one of our NISLA members come to the freshman intro class to tell them about it, just to catch them early. And then another, I guess, main way that we recruited members was just by word of mouth. So just telling some of our other members to bring a friend to the meetings, bring a friend to the events, just trying to get a little bit of exposure that way as well too.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. How did y'all use social media or advertising in the process of recruiting members?
So more recently, our social media team had been trying to create more like up-to-date content or like little videos that aligned with current trends, like on TikTok and things of the sort. Um, just because it was really easy to also spread information about what NISLA even is and like what our major is through social media. Hampton wasn't a super big school, so it was easy to have our members reshare the post. And then that way, like other people within the school were able to click on the post and kind of see, like, oh, like, what is this? Like, this is interesting. And then another way that we use social media was also by constantly posting our events and reminders. I think it's a really great way to make sure that people are remembering the events because sometimes like people might forget to put it on their calendar, but like if you're sitting on Instagram and you're scrolling and an event reminder pops up, like that just might be another way to encourage people to remember to get up and like go to those events.
What would you say was your most successful recruiting experience?
The most successful one I would say is probably going into the freshman introduction class. Um, Catching them early, I'd say is a really good, pro of going into the freshman class. And then also having an actual NISLA representative go talk to them was way better than having, like just the staff announce it. Because we had people who were able to actually talk about what NISLA is, like how it benefits them as freshmen to attend these events and get involved and all the things that they could get out of it. And then also it just showed them that it's another way for them to build community. I think especially like going into your freshman year, like your first year of school or even transferring in, it's kind of like scary and you don't know like where your community is. So it was nice to show them that, hey, like we're here, we can be this community for you, like personally and professionally. So that was probably our best recruiting experience.
Is there anything that you wouldn't do again or that you would just like alter the way that it was done?
Yeah, kind of like what I said just now with sending students into the classes. I think that was way more effective than just asking our professors to tell some of the students to come to our events, especially for like upperclassmen and like grad students. I think it would have been a lot more effective if one of us went to go talk to them instead of our teachers being like, hey, by the way, this is going on, and then continuing on with the rest of their class.
Do any, or what about National NISLA membership? How did you support that aspect of membership within your local NISLA chapter?
So National NISLA membership is something that we preached very heavily, just within our chapter. We started off the school year by really going into detail about what National NISLA membership kind of is and like the difference between that and then just joining like our local chapter. And then at Hampton, we also had the privilege of having a lot of people who were either involved um, with National NISLA or had received the benefits from it, like Zion is the president. He goes to Hampton. We have who else? I don't know. I think there was another person too. But we also had several people who received like scholarships from National NISLA, travel, the travel award. Um, I did MSLP, so it was easy to have people who could actually come and speak to the students who were there, be able to show them like these are real opportunities that you can get and take advantage of, and they're very helpful. So that I think is how we mostly promoted National NISLA.
Yeah, that's great. We had a question in the chat. Did y'all reach out to the students who were pre-SLP or CSD that weren't yet in your program, but were working towards getting into the program during your recruitment?
Yeah, so at Hampton, we don't really have like a pre-program. It's kind of like once you get there freshman year, you kind of declare that as your major and then you just really like hit the ground running. But I think one thing we did do that's kind of like along the lines of that question is that we did try to reach out to some of the students who were in majors that were like semi-adjacent. So like psychology, biology, what else? Some of those other like pre-health majors because we do have a Minority Association of Pre-Health Scholars Club 2 at Hampton. So just trying to reach out with some of those pre-health organizations and pre-health clubs to get the word out there about NISLA and then also what our major is because, not a lot of people know about it. And if they did know about it, it might just be enough to get them to, you know, switch their major over, like let that little light bulb go off in their head, like, hey, this is interesting. I want to try this out. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. Lauren has to head over to the other breakout room, but please, if you have any other questions, drop them in our Padlet that's still open, and we're going to link some resources in the chat as well.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. All right. One thing I will answer before we move on is the question, what's the difference between national NISLA membership and local chapter NISLA membership? So National NISLA membership is what we are talking about when you join National NISLA and you get access to all of those things and all of the benefits that we discussed a little bit earlier during Chapter Leadership Summit. So those are the things like the conversion, ASHA conversion discount. You can apply for our scholarships. You can apply for our travel awards. You are eligible to become a National NISLA leader. You also, there's a whole slew of other benefits that you can read about on our website. From things like, getting a discount on DoorDash or getting discounted movie tickets, all of that kind of stuff, are benefits that you get as a National NISLA membership. When we talk about local chapter membership, that is membership that you have within your chapters on campus. Some of you may or may not collect dues. It depends chapter to chapter if you do or if you do not. But just because a member on your campus joins your local NISLA chapter, and they may or may not pay dues depending on what your chapter does, that does not automatically make them a national NISLA member. To become a national NISLA member, you would go to our website and you would go to that membership tab and you would sign up for national NISLA membership. So those are kind of the differences there. Our job at National NISLA is to help support you guys in the best ways we can. So we're always going to disseminate that information out to y'all. But like I said, being eligible for those benefits that National NISLA offers, you have to be a member. But with that, I'm going to pass it over to Olivia.
Thank you, Kinsley. But we want to welcome Katie Jendensky. Sorry, I'm totally pronouncing your name wrong, but we would like to welcome Katie to speak about community outreach activities and fundraising.
Thank you, Olivia. It's okay. Everyone gets my name wrong. It's a phonetic mess. It's fine, but it's okay. I'm currently the Iowa AUD SSO, which is in the Central Region, and I'm starting my first year of grad school as an AUD grad school at the University of Iowa. But before that, I was the treasurer at James Madison University in my local NISLA chapter for 2 years, and I served as the Virginia AUD SSO, and I also covered Kentucky and West Virginia, and I was the South SSO of the year. Yeah, that's just my intro.
Thank you, Katie. Can you briefly did your chapter have specific goals around activities and fundraising? Where did those goals come from, and did you find them helpful?
Yeah, so I think a loose goal was always just as many people we can get involved as possible, depending on the event, especially. If it's a volunteer event, sometimes there's a max capacity or a minimum amount of members we need. So trying to meet that goal as well. I think in general with any event, we tried to cater the events towards what our group interest was. So a lot of them were focused around like speech or audiology or working with people in different populations that we worked with. But for fundraising also, I think our chapter had like a conference fund where we would help fund other members to go to conferences such as ASHA or AAA or our local conferences. And a lot of our fundraising money would go towards that as well as helping plan those events. So we usually did try to hit a goal every year. I don't know if I should say the exact amount, but yeah, just trying to meet the goals.
How did you scope out and plan the community outreach activities at JMU for the year?
A lot of our activities we tried to have in the community to just get that community growth. We did a lot of events downtown at Children's Museum, specifically one museum that was good for like sensory play, and they would close it down for like one morning every week, and it was for children with like special needs and other behavioral issues. So it was like a very good environment for their sensory needs. Also working with people in different populations. I know we also did some tabling events for World Hearing Day, for World Speech Day, stuff like that. I see a message in the chat asking for events or fundraisers for people that have like a lot of distance. I can't remember any specific events, but I do know one really good fundraiser that my chapter did that was online was a double good fundraiser. It's basically like popcorn, and they give you a very big percentage back on the money that you as a chapter spend. I think it was like you get like 40% of the payout, if that's helpful. I kind of got off track a little bit, but yes.
Once you planned activities, how did you get your members involved?
Yeah, so a lot of times we would do sign up sheets if it was something that we needed like a set list of members for like the volunteer events or anything like that. We had a lot of membership events as well. That was nice. And we had a point system where sometimes if you brought an item to an event, like a food or treats or whatever, you would get an extra point. So that would go towards your membership. So that was a really good initiative as well and encouraged people to come because who doesn't love a sweet treat at an event? I mean, I know I do. Like, there's always pizza there. But yeah,
We're a little bit behind on time, so if you guys have questions, drop them in the Padlet. Um, but Katie, what fundraiser brought you the most success?
so I would definitely say the Double Good fundraiser was a really successful fundraiser for us. And there was also a local ice cream shop that had a lot of success as well. I would really recommend for people who are looking to find fundraisers is asking them like what percentage like yield you get back. And not only that, if like it applies for the entire like time portion that the fundraiser is being held, or if they need a code. I know for the ice cream fundraiser that we would do, you didn't need a code for it. So it was just applied for that like 4 hour time period. And they gave us like 20% of those profits. So it was very, very good. And it was also like amazing ice cream. So everyone wanted to go anyways. Great excuse to go. So definitely trying to find like fundraising opportunities that one people already like to go to. Like I know ice cream and then also Chipotle was always a big one for us because like I always need an excuse to get Chipotle. So trying to find things like that.
Thank you, Katie. And then one last thing, is there anything that you would not do again?
Um, I don't know about not do again, but maybe do a little differently. I think sometimes with fundraising events specifically, sometimes less can be more in a way, where if you have like a surplus of fundraising events, it's kind of like there's a minor amount of people going to each. Sometimes it's better to just have like two or three bigger fundraising events and then everyone can go. So you're also getting that sense of community with your NISLA group as well, rather than everyone kind of staggering out.
Thank you so much for that advice. We're going to drop a link that includes some fundraising event examples in the chat. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. We are next. Two people that we are going to hear from are Colin and Anne Bildo, a professor emeritus from Butler University, and Colin is our National NISLA VP for DAP. I'm not sure that they have joined our room yet. Is there anyone that has any questions that we could answer now? I saw one in the chat earlier. What clubs did you collab with on campus? I know that question was specifically for Lauren when she was talking about that. But is there anyone else in our group that would like to share maybe who your clubs are partnering with?
I'm Bernadette. I'm the VP for the ACU Online chapter in Texas. So we're on, as I said, we're online. Our growth has significantly gone up since January. But do you have any like recommendations on how like we could continue to further that growth being an online program?
Yeah, I think I would just echo, all of that information that Lauren shared, making sure that, especially as an online group, that your social media presence is really on point and like top tier, whether it's, kind of keeping up with whatever social media trends are and making posts aligning with those, and also using your social media as a reminder outlet as well as just sending out information blast about your events that you might be having. But I think honestly what I find is that if a chapter is having success in recruitment, that you keep using that same recipe kind of, because recruitment ebbs and flows throughout seasons, obviously. But if you have a recipe that is successful, I would recommend using it and employing it at all times of the year, and then just adding slowly to it and see what helps and what doesn't. So, you know, maybe start adding in some different, making an Instagram reel, like a funny Instagram reel that people can share. See if that draws more crowd and attention to your page and to your chapter.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. It looks like Colin and Ann have joined us. Like I said, Colin is our National NISLA VP for GAP, and Ann Bildo is a professor emeritus, from Butler University, and they are going to speak on easy ways to get your chapter involved in advocacy and top tips for creating successful experiences for your members.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here today with Ann to talk to you all about advocacy and how National NISLA can help your chapters advance the CSD professions at the state and national levels. So first off, I want to share with you an exciting brand new resource that is now available, the CSD Student Advocacy Hub. So this is a place where you can send your members for information on advocacy, how to get involved, different events and activities, and a host of downloadable resources. So make this hub your go-to resource throughout the year, and especially at chapter honors time. The link is in the chat now, so please check it out. So advocacy is a chapter honors requirement, and that is for good reason. As future audiologists and speech language pathologists, being an advocate for our clients is a big part of our day-to-day. But we also need to advocate for our profession. What happens on the federal and state level can have a big impact on how we work with clients, how we make money, and how we even navigate treatment. That's why advocating for our interest is so important. So what does advocacy look like? Well, today we have the pleasure of talking with Ann Bilodeau about her advocacy experience at Butler University. Ann, thank you for being here with us today. Can you start by telling us a little about your career and how you initially got involved in advocacy during your tenure?
Yes, thank you, Colin. I'm so delighted to see all you amazing, wonderful leaders, and on a Sunday afternoon, no less, as the semester starts, which I certainly wish you well. I have been in this, I am a speech language pathologist for the last 42 years, and it is Professor Emeritus. That's what I am, which is a retired person. You're far from that. But I've had an amazing career, and a big part of that to me has always been, and a big passion to me, a true love, has been advocacy, because I've seen it work. I know the difference that we can make. And so you are in a very powerful position right now to be able to help your fellow students understand that. As far as my career, I am a past president of the Indiana Speech Language and Hearing Association. I first got involved in my ISHA world and NISLA, really. I guess I was president at Purdue and NISLA too. So it's kind of my thing, but you don't have to be that kind of person to do good advocacy, that's for sure. But one of my first jobs, I worked and I was told I didn't have a legal leg to stand on with an unhappy situation for an SLPA. And I ended up working with my state, and it took 2.5 years, but we did change the law. So I do know these things can work. Currently, I am the chair of the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency, which is a very interesting position to hold. And so I've seen advocacy at all different angles. I mean, from the very baseline, we advocate for our clients, right? So we're doing advocacy all the time. But this clear version of the word advocacy, you really think about government and legislation, and that's where the sausage gets made, and it impacts us. It definitely impacts us. The most recent thing that impacts you as students has been the issue with loans, student loans, and being able to be included in the profession term, right? And so I've been involved with our NISLA group. I've been their advisor for many years. We've done a lot of cool things. And one of them, like with this issue with this recent advocacy needed, we went to Washington, D.C., took 12 students. We had what we call a study trek. So a trek instead of a study abroad, but it was just 4 days in Washington, D.C. It was boom, 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 boom. We were moving. but we spent a full day on the Hill. We got to go to ASHA. They were great. The ASHA office on the Hill. There's a reason why we're in Washington and on the Hill, because these laws and rules impact us. So our students were able to go and advocate, tell their story, and it was just incredibly impressive. The students had an amazing experience. We also went to Planet Word, which is a great place. We went to Gallaudet. So if you're interested in that, I'll put my email in the chat. Definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to give you our itinerary, all of that. So that's kind of a bigger thing. But we also, in our state, Collins at Purdue, I'm a Purdue grad, we get all the universities together and we work with our ISHA group and our state association of professionals, and we provide a kind of a middle day advocacy meetup at our state house in Indianapolis, and which is very impressive as well. And students really get to meet their legislators. It's very comfortable. We have food. Of course, we have food. You have to have food. But it's very fun and really does make an impact. But other things I could go on, but just to know, other things you can do is you can invite your legislator to your campus. It's a great thing to do. Many of these legislators and their aides have had the benefit of our services, right? They know somebody, their child, their daughter, their father. And so having you tell that story is just incredibly impactful. Writing the letters, following up. You have an amazing resource now that NISLA has put together for you for advocacy. And students really get into this. They want to get behind it, and they find such meaning and purpose. And I've just been incredibly impressed. So you as leaders in your organization really can drive that. And as I said, I'm more than happy to give you ideas or run something through with you or whatever I can do to help support you, because as I said, this has been life's work for me, and I just we've got to continue. You guys are our future, and it's an ever-going thing, right? Ever-going.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Colin.
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Mhm.
Most people probably picture advocacy happening, just like you mentioned, being on Capitol Hill in DC, going to congressional offices and having meetings with those legislators. While that is one way to do advocacy, there are a lot of other ways that we can have our voices heard. In the chat, can you name some ways that you may be able to participate in advocacy? And there's some hints on the screen as well. And while you're doing that, also feel free to put in the chat some advocacy issues that are important to you. Trying to read all of these. All good ideas so far, so keep putting those in the chat. One thing that you probably saw were the take action letters. They are a really great tool that's offered by ASHA that outline different bills that apply to CSD professions and allow you to quickly send off personalized letters to federal legislators about those topics. They have suggested letters that are pre-populated in the fields that you can modify however you'd like. It's really cool, very easy to use, and you can find a direct link to it from our new advocacy hub. So I have a QR code and the URL to the website in the chat, so please feel free to save the link and use it. A lot of people have some misconceptions about advocacy, and I wanted to go through some of the common myths that we hear. So starting with the third myth, organizing an advocacy event is complicated. This is false. We have so many tools and opportunities for your chapters to participate in advocacy events, either on our student advocacy days or other times throughout the year. It can be as simple as getting your members together over pizza, pulling out your laptops, and filling in some of the info on the Take Action site. Or, of course, if you want to, you can do something in person at your state capitol. What's important to remember is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple. The second myth, advocacy yields fast results. Unfortunately, this is not true. Advocacy is a pretty long process. Although we love the instant gratification of seeing fast change, the reality is the legislative process takes time. It's important to make our voices heard at all stages of the process in order to be effective. Changing laws is a slow roll, so we have to be okay with small victories. And finally, the number one myth is only certain people have the skills to do federal advocacy. This one is also false. Advocacy is everyone, and with the tools and methods we have available, it's something that every member of your chapter can participate in. So just wanted to highlight a few things before we end. We have two student advocacy days coming up. Our fall one is on October 22nd. And our spring date will be determined and sent out. So these are great opportunities for all national NISLA chapters to come together and make your voices heard on issues that matter to us. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Colin and Ann. Does anyone in the room have any experience going to a state Hill Day or any other type of advocacy event outside of the Take Action Letters and Student Advocacy Day? If you do have that experience, use that raise hand feature in the chat. Awesome. Great. We love to see that, Ava. That's wonderful. If this is something that anyone else is interested in, we really want to encourage you to reach out to your state associations, as they often have professionals who focus on advocacy and can offer support and help for you to attend a Hill Day, organize a Hill Day, and even get your NISLA chapter to a Hill Day. Does anyone have any advocacy related questions for Colin and Ann? Feel free to use that raise hand feature or drop them in the chat. All right, I'll actually get us started. I have a question for you, Ann. So I know that you have been able to fortunately see some advocacy play out where you've seen it start to finish, where it became a law, you had said. What would you say is like the importance of follow up and follow through with advocacy to make sure, that you go and bring up this issue so that they're aware of it? And then how would you say you follow up to make sure that you can see it become fruitful eventually?
Yeah, great question. I think truly, Kinsley, that you're laying foundations, and it can start even before the issue comes up, right? So getting to know your legislators. There's only so much time in a day, I realize, but maybe having an opportunity where you, when they're not right in session and super busy, that you invite them to your campus so they know you. So you've started to lay that foundation and they want to hear from you. It's just really critical to do that. And then don't give up. So when I think about in the last group, I talked about kind of my top three things. I mean, you've got to tell your story. That's what's important. You've got to be patient. So don't give up. Don't think just because this hasn't changed in a month or 6 months that you can't make a difference, because you can. You absolutely can. And then 100% use all your resources, right? Because there are a lot of things there to help support you. So you don't have to do this alone. That's the beauty of your organization and what you're doing on your campus in particular. So you're really making a difference for the students that are there, which will impact our clients, will impact possibly your work life, our profession, in so many different areas. So I think the more you can do in advance, and that's a lot of what ASHA and NISLA do, is to help. I've done a lot of lobbying at the federal and the state level, and it's important that you go there, lay that foundation so they really know who we are and the difference that we make.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know you touched a little bit on the importance of sharing our stories when we're meeting with these legislators. How do you find that you are able to convey the importance and impact that these things that we're advocating for can have when these legislators, might be worried about passing funding for the entire and their bills for the entire country? How do we make sure that we're, on their radar and not something that they kind of put to the back burner?
Well, they like to know the quick and dirty of it all, right? They're busy. They get people from, if you've ever gone to the State House and seen all the lobbyists and the people outside waiting, like to attack these poor legislators coming out. There's a lot of people with a lot of different needs and issues, but I can give you an example of something like, oh golly, it just went right out of my head what we did. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, it went right on my head. But if you, oh, I was so close to it. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happened to me. I've gone into retirement mode. I'm trying not to, but it's helping them, I think, to understand again, to just try to explain a story to them, how it impacts them. So, oh, here's a good one. In Indiana, this is something we've been laying foundation for a long time, and it has to do with caseloads. I don't know if anybody here is from Indiana, but other than Colin, I know at Purdue, but Colin knows this very well. Our first SLPs, I know you're an audiologist, but we have caseload that are the highest in the entire country. So that's a story, that's a theme. So getting a theme that you can get behind to help them understand and how that impacts, right? That we don't have enough SLPs, et cetera, and trying to show them. And then you find that legislator whose son maybe has Down syndrome and they understand how important the services are, right? Or you have a family member share what they've gone through. So, like I said, a lot of it is laying that foundation for the legislative folks to understand what it is that we do.
All right. Thank you so much, Anne. You are just a wealth of knowledge and advice for us. It was so great to have you. And thank you, Colin, for sharing what National NISLA has been up to with advocacy and being there and really leading those efforts. We're going to add the link to the chat for some chapters, advocacy success stories. So y'all take a look at those to get ideas and see what some successes we've been having in National NISLA. I'm going to pass it on over to Olivia to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Kinsley. We'd like to welcome former President Angela Gomez and the incoming President Kira Chan from the 2025-2026 Chapter of the Year, University of Utah. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Hi, everyone.
Do you guys have any advice for chapters when it comes to setting up the year for success?
Yeah, I can go first. I think as incoming president, we've been kind of doing this throughout the whole summer, but having very clear goals at the beginning of the year and making sure that your entire officer team is also on the same page. I think that everyone on your team should understand what you're working towards and what everyone's individual responsibilities are to make sure that you're functioning well as a unit. I'd also encourage like delegating responsibilities very early on instead of having just everything fall on the president and vice president because all of your executive members are very competent. So like having some members plan a certain event or doing certain communication things. And I think that planning events and communicating ahead of time can make the year run a lot more smoothly. But it's also important to stay flexible because things can change. And then I think the best thing or the best advice I can give is build a strong relationship with your officers. When everyone feels like they're being supported and is involved and everyone feels comfortable working with each other, I think that it really translates into a stronger chapter and like having a better year.
And just to add on what Kira said, what we did was we really looked at what were some things that we lacked in the previous year and how can we get better. So we saw that we really didn't have really good numbers with freshmen joining NISLA. So we created a specific position for freshman initiative to really go someone that went to the freshman courses at the U and they just told them about events and we've created a mentor program and we just wanted to target that population to increase the numbers because we saw that we didn't have great success before. So I would say just kind of look at what your NISLA chapter is kind of lacking in previous years and see how you can improve that.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. What about the community board posts on ASHA Community? What worked best for your chapter? chapter?
I can answer that one. So we had our national liaison, Andy. She was really great, and she was the one that was very active. She was our active ASHA member, always uploading the post. So she just made sure that she just did them on time and really made sure that each one of her written summaries definitely covered everything that we had done in the year. And we just made sure good advice is just to keep track. We kept track of all that we've done. We time stamped it. We were very organized in like what we've done so we can articulate it really well, especially when we were applying for chapter of the year.
Awesome. Kira, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that having a consistent person is also really important, knowing that you have one person that you can rely on that is going to turn in those board posts. So I think having a position like that is also really helpful.
I agree. Thank you guys so much. Does anyone have any questions for Kira or Angela? You guys can use the raise hand feature, or type them in the chat, but it'd be best just to raise the hand feature and we'll call on you guys.
I got a question from Daniela, and she's asking when the board posts are due. We usually typically did them at the beginning of each month. So we would have a meeting and we would kind of lay out, this is what we're going to do for the month. And we would either post it, our person would post it at the beginning of the month saying, this is what we're planning to do, or she would post it at the end of the month saying, this is what we did. There's not really a deadline, just make sure you have it in the month that it was due.
And I will popcorn off of that, Angelina. As for National NISLA purposes, there is not a due date per se, other than just before chapter honors is due. So if you are going back through and you realize in March that, oh, we did not submit one for December because it was December and there were finals, and then we were on Christmas break and we just forgot, that is okay. You can post your December update late. So if you ever realize that, you can go back and do it. You just need it submitted before you submit for chapter honors, really. But definitely, I agree with Angelina, having a set due date for yourself is going to help you keep on top of it and know that you've done it and be organized about it. But is there any other questions for Angelina or Kira?
I got another question.
Perfect.
Just on the chat. But it is about working with staff to create events. So what we did was one of our staff members, Dr. Kramer, he does a annual trip to Oaxaca every year to do free hearing screenings as well as speech therapy, and it's just once a week. And he was really facing a decline in interest because not a lot of people knew about it. So what we did as NISLA is we partnered with him and we just made sure that the event was widely known. So we always posted about it. We did weekly announcements where we had a person on our board who would go into the classes and announce, hey, this trip to Oaxaca is a great opportunity and why it was important. And I just think that working with your professors to create events, but also just they're really knowledgeable and they have a lot of experience. So being able to work with Dr. Kramer and learn more about the Oaxaca experience and being able to go and just see that with my own eyes, it was just an absolute amazing experience. And I'm glad that we were able to do it as a NISLA chapter. Oh, and then there was another question. The question was about legislation. With legislation in Utah, there was a huge issue where they were talking about taking away SLP's CCs and as well as just some SLP rights. And what we did was we were very blessed to have a huge Capitol on top of the hill. So me and a couple of the girls from NISLA, we went and we were able to create a meeting with one of the legislators. They were very open. We were very persistent. So we went to the office probably probably once a week and asked, "Can we meet with you? Can we meet with you?" And my mom always says, one of the things I love that she says is that the greasy wheel gets the gas. So you just got to be persistent. So we were so persistent with our legislators that they finally are like, yes, this must be important. We want to listen to you after weeks of persistence of emailing, calling, showing up. So we were finally able to talk to our legislators and be like, tell them our thoughts and our opinions. And we were able to hopefully make change. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of change going on currently with Utah and their legislation. So we hope that everything's going to go great, but we would like to think that our NISLA chapter had a large part of changing that legislation. So thank you for the question.
All right, that was wonderful. Thank you both so much, Kira and Angelina. Y'all are wonderful resources for all of us to hear from and get to listen to. So thank you for sharing your experiences.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any final questions? Don't forget, you also add questions to our running Padlet at any time with the link that I'm posting in the chat.
All right, we have just hit 2:50, so everyone is coming back to this room now. We are going to take another 10-minute break. So thank you all for joining us. We will reconvene at the top of the hour in 10 minutes to play our Kahoot game with the prize from A&M Healthcare. So go ahead and take a break, go get some water, do whatever you may need.
$50 Amazon gift card from AMN Healthcare. If you haven't already signed into Kahoot, take a minute to do so now. All right, which of the following are National NISLA member benefits? That is correct. Yes, good job. So the NISLA to ASHA conversion discount, member honor eligibility, and scholarships. Good job to everyone. All right, this is a type answer. Which is the last day to purchase a 2026 National NISLA membership? All right, awesome job, everyone. Let's see. Yes, that is correct. August 31st of 2026. Nice job to you guys. All right, true or false? One needs national membership for the last 2 years of master/doctoral program, so including grad year, for the discount. Is that true or false? So an individual needs a national membership for the last 2 years of the master's doctoral program for the discount. Yes, that is true. Great job. All right, how much does the conversion discount save on ASHA certification and membership fees?
All right. Correct. $250. Good job to the 27 of you. That's awesome. All right, another true or false. Local chapter members automatically get National NISLA memberships. True or false? That is false. Nice job. You guys caught that. No, local chapters do not automatically get those benefits. Another true false. Chapters should reaffiliate when their new officials take office. True or false? That was fast. You guys are answering that fast. Correct. That is true. Nice job. Oh my goodness, 100%. That's awesome. Great job. All right, quiz. How many regions does National NISLA support? We talked about this earlier today. That is correct. That's 4. Nice job, you guys. You're killing this. Which of the following are components of chapter honors? All of them are. Nice job. It was tricky. They all were. All right, another true or false. The easiest way for students to advocate is to submit take action letters. True or false? That is true. It's super easy. We've all done that here. And if you participate in chapter honors, I know you have as well. It's awesome. Great job, guys. All right, another quiz. How many take action letters did NISLA chapter send this year? Oof. Let's see. All right, congratulations. Yes, it was 8,200 letters. Oh my goodness, that is so many letters. That is amazing. All right, another quiz. You can select multiple. Why is advocacy important? All right, yes, the 3 of them. So your clients depend on you to advocate for them and their care. Your voice impacts the future of CSD, and CSD professionals are impacted by decisions at the state and federal levels. That is correct. Great job, everyone. All right, last question. Oh my goodness. Select all possible examples of advocacy done by chapters. Ooh, this is tricky. Yes, they're all correct. All right, I state Hill Day, bringing in CSD professionals for an advocacy panel, signature gathering for statewide initiatives for autism services, and hosting a chapter event around fall or spring advocacy day. Those are all right. Congratulations. Okay, let's see. Drum roll. All right, third place, Dana, congratulations. Second place, Sydney. And in first place, congratulations, Nikki. You won the $50 gift card to Amazon. Thank you so much for all participating and AMN Healthcare for the gift card.
All right, we're now going to have a panel on what I wish I knew with three speakers. Kristen Pruss, the Senior Director of Teletherapy at AMN Healthcare, is also joined by Dr. Rachel Glade, a 2026-2027 ASHA board member and a clinical professor, and COEHP Honors Director at the University of Arkansas. We are also joined by Dr. Akilah Heggs, an audiologist, public health scholar, and professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Thank you all for being here. To start things off, can each of you just give us a quick overview of your career path today and then answer what is one thing that you wish you knew as you went from a grad student to early career professional? Kristen, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, thanks. Hi again, everybody. So I, mentioned this earlier, but again, I am an SLP and I have spent my career in school-based services, working with children, really mostly focused ages 3 through 21. And I made the transition from being an on-site, in-person SLP to teletherapy about 13 years ago. And I was practicing and then have since been in clinical director positions for a couple of different companies, currently with AMN. So I've just had the opportunity to see the scope of our services, school-based services in this country. I think for me, one of the great gifts in my career was, I live in Colorado, I worked in Colorado, but when I transitioned to teletherapy, I started working in about 5 different states that I had never lived in. I had never had an experience with the school systems. And it really opened my eyes to the reality that services are not equitable. They're not equal everywhere you go. Very dependent on geography, location, how schools are funded, even though, yes, they're under the umbrella of IDEA, how those services are implemented and staffed, and how the impact of shortages was very striking to me. So that really is where I felt like more of an advocate for services for children and making sure that they have, access to the services that they have qualified for and that they have the right to under IDEA. So I feel very privileged to have had the opportunity to experience that and to be involved. But yes, I'm currently Senior Director of Teletherapy with AMN Healthcare. So I get to work, again, supporting clinicians, supporting schools. So it's a really great way for me to leverage my clinical experience, but also act in a position of both advocacy and working with professionals from a lot of different backgrounds than I have. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Dr. Glade, would you like to share?
Yeah, hey, well, thank you guys for having us. This is awesome. A little bit about me. Gosh, first of all, when I started down this path, if you would have told me that I would be doing what I'm doing now, I would have laughed. I would have been like, "Ha, yeah, that's cute. That's cute." But just straight out of the gate, I would say maybe just never close doors that maybe seem like they're unattainable. Starting out is what I would start with.
initially, but so my path was interesting. I had an opportunity as a graduate student to work as a GA in the audiology and speech pathology department at Arkansas Children's Hospital in Little Rock, and that was just I fell into that. It wasn't, it just, my path just happened to land there. At the time, I was planning on doing speech pathology, and obviously that's where I landed long term. However, I definitely developed a love for audiology as well, which ultimately led me down the path of becoming a listening and spoken language therapist, or listening and spoken language specialist. So graduate school, worked with children and adults with hearing loss, along with all the other, 400 hours you have to accumulate. Then graduated and worked in pediatric private practice. Still wasn't sure if I wanted to land in kids or adults because I never, like initially when I came out, I was like, I'm never going to work with adults. But I thought, well, let me just see. And then now, actually, my caseload is exclusively adults, even though I provide consultation with kids too. But anyway, so pediatric private practice, pediatric hospital, skilled nursing facilities, rehab centers, things like that is where I started out early. So I had a nice breadth of experience. It wasn't too long after that I got a little frustrated in Arkansas where I felt like, man, there are decisions that are being made about funding sources and what counts for what. And I just felt like our fields were not at the tables that were having these really important discussions. And so that was one of the reasons that I wanted to go back and get my doctorate. So I went back and finished my doctorate, and that was in 2016. Then again, somehow just landed in being asked to do some administration work. And so I finished up, I've been program director for our university for the past 7 years. And then the COEHP piece, that's the College of Education and Health Professions. So I had an opportunity to help out with our honors, the honors program for our college. And then I most recently had the amazing opportunity to serve on the ASHA Board of Directors as VP for Academic Affairs on the speech pathology side. Had an opportunity to serve with Dr. Heggs last year, which was awesome. So again, if you had told me this is where my journey was going back years ago, I would have never thought that this is where I was going to land. I'm not sure what the procedure is, but it looks like maybe Angelina has a question. I'm not sure if I can answer that now or if we're waiting or what's the procedure on that one. I'm good with answering if we're allowed to, but
Okay, perfect. I'll let Dr. Heads just introduce herself real quick
okay.
as well, and then we will jump over to Angelina to answer that question.
Okay, all right. Well, Dr. Heggs.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you all. I always get excited by the energy of students and emerging professionals. So I have as much to learn from you as you may from me. So I'm Akila Heggs. I am a pediatric audiologist by, passion and clinical training. And I've had a lot of jobs. So, um, I can't begin to tell you all the different things that I've done, but I started out working clinically in a pediatric hospital. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I've pretty much been here my entire career. And so, I was the only pediatric audiologist in a children's hospital, small children's hospital here. And after a couple of years of doing that, it actually opened up a door for administration. And then I became the director of pediatric rehab very, very early. Like I was only maybe 3 years out from finishing grad school. And that was just an opportunity that I certainly wasn't looking for, sort of like what Dr. Glade said. If you had asked me what I would be doing even then, and particularly, and definitely not now, as a graduate student, I would not have imagined. But one of the tips I would give you is, being open-minded to opportunities as they present themselves and not feeling like you have all of it together yet. Because honestly, at 27 years old, I didn't think I was really capable to be the director of pediatric rehab. But I believed in myself. I take chances. I did the work. I learned a lot. I had mentors, and was able to be successful at that. Was I great at it all the time? No. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you certainly fail at what you're doing, but those are all lessons learned to make you better. So from there, another opportunity presented itself out of nowhere, seemingly, for me to work for the Georgia Department of Health as the Early Hearing Detection and Intervention, or EDI coordinator for the state of Georgia. Again, I didn't know anything about really doing that. All I knew is that I love being a pediatric audiologist, and I had worked certainly clinically within the system. And this was an opportunity for me to have a different level of impact running the state system, learning about, all of the aspects that children who are deaf and hard of hearing and their families have to navigate once from the initial screening to diagnosis to intervention. Um, so I did that for several years, and that was sort of my introduction to public health. So I have my PhD in public health, and that really came from that initial exposure. But I didn't get my PhD until probably 10 years later, after that opportunity. So from there, I actually entered academia as a lecturer in a speech language pathology only graduate program. They also had an undergrad program at the University of West Georgia. So I was the lecturer, and then I also was the clinic director. And so that too was yet something else I had not ever thought about, but knew that I'd been, director of pediatric rehab, had been over the EDI program for the state. So all of those were transferable skills. And so that's sort of another nugget that I leave with you, is that every opportunity is going to give you another tool in your toolbox. And that certainly can open doors for you to do things that, no, you don't learn how to do in graduate school, but you learn how to do it on the job and by being open to different things that come your way. So I loved academia. I love students. I love teaching. And that's when I was like, well, I think I might get my PhD because I want to kind of stick around in this space. And when I thought about what I wanted to get my PhD in, public health is what came to mind. I didn't want sort of another degree in audiology, which would have been fine, but I wanted to sort of expand my scope. So I worked on my doctorate in public health. And from there, was able to work for the federal government. So I've worked for the Health Resources and Services Administration, or HRSA, under the Maternal Child Health Bureau, as a public health policy analyst for the EDI program. And then I worked for the CDC as a health scientist, doing surveillance for autism and cerebral palsy. So now I've kind of come back to academia, and I'm at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, mainly to start a program that blends sort of my work in supporting individuals with disability, sort of more broadly than communication disorders, and building a certificate that looks at disability policy and advocacy. So that's my trajectory. I've also, in terms of just servant leadership, served on the ASHA Board of Directors as the VP for planning. I've also been the president of my state association here, the Georgia Speech Language Hearing Association, and a few other things. So I think, again, just in terms of what I wish I knew as a grad student, is that you don't have to have it all figured out when you're in grad school, not even like your first job. So when you're in graduate school, you're there to learn, and to be open to learning. And you may come in saying, I know I just want to work with kids, and old people, make me, nervous or whatever. But you never know. You're there to learn. You're there to take it all in. Don't box yourself in to saying, I only want to do this. But really having an open mind, having good mentors, and not being afraid to ask questions. You don't know everything. Again, you're there to learn. Nobody expects you to know everything when you're in graduate school. Hopefully you don't, because then again, you sort of limited yourself. And then also don't be afraid to explore when opportunities present themselves, even as students, stretch yourself. You might not be anything that you've ever done or imagined doing before, particularly as you show up even, in NISLA and NISLA leadership, stretch yourself, and just sort of think outside the box. So I'll leave it there and see if we need to circle back to answer the question that the person had.
Thank you. Angelina, do you still have that question?
No, ma'am. She answered it.
Perfect. All right, wonderful. Moving on, we have a few questions prepared for y'all. So, for the panel as a whole, knowing what you know now, how would you have approached your student finances differently?
I'm happy to jump in with that. I actually was very blessed and fortunate. I haven't paid tuition for any of the 3 degrees I have. We have a program here in Georgia that's called the Hope Scholarship, and you're able to go tuition free to any state institution as long as you maintain a B average. And so, with the pressure from my mom to say, "Hey, you can go to school for free. You better not lose this thing." So, that was that. Of course, there were other finances, and then for my master's degree, which I did get at the University of Massachusetts Amherst in audiology. I had a graduate assistantship that allowed me to have a tuition waiver, get a little, stipend every month, and same thing for my doctoral degree. And so, but I know that isn't everybody's story and isn't everybody's journey. It still takes a lot to manage your personal finances when you're in grad school, especially now when the world is more expensive. A lot of people, have to commute and have to make a lot of personal sacrifices. Even when I did get my PhD, I quit my job. So I no longer had a full-time job. I didn't have benefits. And all I did have was my stipend from my doc program. And I was able, because I was already an audiologist, work like little PRN jobs to kind of make up the difference as much as I could. I also had a son who was in elementary school, so I had to navigate being a mom and being in school. And I know a lot of people have those same responsibilities. So the main thing is, just being conscious of those things, maybe trying to prepare ahead of time before graduate school, and knowing that your life will change. Your lifestyle will change when you continue on with your education, and just sort of thinking about that ahead of time and trying to prepare as much as you can.
Yeah, and I can jump in and really quickly, I apologize. I realized I never actually answered the first question, so I'll just say very quickly, as far as what I wish I had known, and this is very a specific thing, but I wish I had known coming out of grad school before beginning that I could have traveled as an SLP. I had absolutely no awareness that that was a possibility. I knew about travel nursing, but especially as a school-based SLP, the idea that I could have, at least for a couple of years before I had kids and things, that would have made that much more difficult. That I could have lived other places, had a little bit of that, checking out different parts of the country, or just an opportunity to travel and work someplace else as an SLP would have been, I think, really cool, and something that, as I love travel, I would have really loved that, but I just had no awareness of that. So I wish I had. And so that's one thing to consider for you all, depending on what you're doing. But I also just echo Dr. Heggs and Dr. Glade. I think I had zero. I mean, the field that I'm in now, really the focus didn't even exist when I was in grad school. So I could not have imagined where I would end up. And I completely agree that just being open to every opportunity that might come your way, even if it's something completely different than what you thought, is key. As far as finances, I was on the other end of the spectrum. I was a 3-year grad program. My undergrad was not communication disorders, so I had a 3 years master's program. And it was very discouraged to have a job outside of grad program. It was very, as you all are aware, very intense. I was also commuting an hour each way every day, so it really made maintaining a job very difficult. So I was taking out loans. There were not, in my grad program, there were very few opportunities for any assistance. So, and this is not specific to our field. I think in general, and this is something now that I have 3 daughters who are embarking on college careers and young professionals. I would have tackled those student loans as quickly as possible, kind of before other things in life take over, because that was something that could be, can be really overwhelming. So if you're in a position where you are in, and it's, absolutely worth it. I mean, I have a career I love because I had the opportunity to go to grad school. So that's how I was able to do it. But yes, I would have tried to get those taken care of very quickly, because I think, it just gives you more flexibility down the road or depending on what it is. And, we all know student loans can be certainly overwhelming, and the repayment isn't always as flexible so yeah, that's what I would have done, is just try to get those taken care of so that I, wasn't feeling quite so bound by all the student loans. So hopefully that's not the case for everybody. But yeah, I certainly was in that position of that's what I was coming out of grad school with. So.
Yeah, I would just echo what they said. Maybe the only other things I might add is I would for sure create a budget. I think it would be really good as a student to like create an itemized budget, because even if you don't know, well, you need to know where your money's going, especially when it might be running thin, right? And so, and I know there are different apps and stuff to potentially do that now, but so investigate some of those. But I do think even if all you did is create an Excel spreadsheet and try to track your money that way, that's a really good idea. If there are expenditures that are, necessary for, like rent, for example, right? Everybody's going to have rent or something unless they have the opportunity to maybe live at home or something like that. But if there are bills like that maybe you can pay in advance, like depending on what your financial situation is, like, oh, I can pay a month ahead or something like that. That's a really good idea too, because it's not, it's just a stress that you're not going to have. It's to where then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get down to having $20 in my account after I pay rent this time. So get those big expenditures out first, make sure those are accounted for, and then consider what else you've got left on your, in your budget. That would be the only thing I would add, but yeah.
Great. Thank you all so much. Our next question is, when you were early career professionals, what do you wish that you knew about managing your work-life balance?
I'll hop in here since Dr. Heggs was kind enough to go first last time, so I'll take this one. I wish I had been intentional about scheduling my wellness and my personal health time as much as I was intentional about scheduling my work time. I think that's something that I'm starting to do better now, but it has taken a while because I just went from, work, study, work, study. That was my mindset as a student. And so whenever I was a young professional, it was essentially, work and then come home and work some more and then go to bed and then get up and get back to work, and that was not the healthiest. I do think, at least for me, it has been really helpful for me to be like, okay, this chunk of time, I'm going to go work out, or this chunk of time, I'm going to go for a walk, or once a month, I'm going to go out with my friends and we're going to do something fun. It's important. It's important that you find some things outside of your profession that kind of fill your cup, because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to help take care of other folks. And this is a profession that it can be mentally and physically and emotionally draining. At the same time, like there are some amazing things about this field, as you guys know, that absolutely fill your cup. But if you're not intentional about making sure that your cup is being filled, it can get you can deplete yourself pretty easily, especially early on. So yeah, that'd be my advice there.
Yeah, and I concur with all of that. I will say I was terrible with this for a very long time. And I wish I knew how crucial this was. But I wish I had really realized the difference between having a strong work ethic and sacrificing yourself for your job. I don't think I differentiated those two for a very long time until I really was so incredibly depleted. And, I think many of us, it's not just work, it's then if we over time add on family and all these other responsibilities. And, but I always, for many years, I mean, I feel like it's been in the last 8 years even of my career that I have realized how my work eventually it is sacrificed if I'm not taking care of myself in other ways and I'm not being intentional, as Dr. Glade said, about time for myself, time really set aside with family. And, one thing, especially because again, 13 years ago, moving to online work, um, it can be very hard to maintain a boundary between work and everything else. And so that was something that took me until pretty recently to create some stronger boundaries. And I think it makes me better. I'm better at my job for that. But it was really, it can be very hard to say no, be very hard to differentiate between when it's, important to go ahead and say yes to things and those things that, it's okay to say no to. So some of that I think comes with time and experience, but I also think that your generation is probably going to be a little bit better than that. I think we Gen Xers were not great. um, and, some of the millennials were really coming out of that attitude that you just really did everything you need to do for work, that it didn't, we weren't really taught that it's okay to say no, it's okay to set boundaries. So I'm hoping that all of you and, my daughters included who are, I think might have much more awareness of that. And I think that they're probably going to do better. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And that's exactly what I was going to say. I think generationally, work-life balance almost wasn't even a thing, right? So definitely have learned that in this phase of life and career that it's important to prioritize yourself. And you can do that and not really sacrifice, your job. You can, like you said, have great work ethic, but also prioritizing yourself. Sleep, rest, is not something you earn after you work so hard. It's available to you and you should take it when you need it. And I think, early in our careers, we are just so ambitious. We're so eager to get out there and do it and to essentially prove ourselves. And, it is important to obviously show up and do good work, but not at the expense of, your personal health and well-being. So setting those boundaries, being realistic about what you can and can't do, and being honest about that. And prioritizing, yourself and like Dr. Glade saying, just having something else besides work, because we spend more than enough time of our day and our lives at work. So having something else that, brings you peace, brings you joy, brings you, just that feeling of wellness is really important.
And hey, Kinsley, before can I say just one more thing on this topic? Just because I think it might be it might be a golden nugget, maybe I don't know. So because the question was where did his work-life balance? And a term that I read about, I guess it's been a couple of years ago now, was this idea of work-life harmony. And I think that's an interesting thing to think about because the truth of the matter is that there's really not ever going to be a balance between work and life. This idea of work-life harmony is that, you know what, there are going to be seasons or even weeks that's like, hey, you know what, I'm going to have to stay late 3 days this week because I've got a deadline on Friday. Like that's just going to be, I'm going to have an intense week. But then maybe the week after that, I can go home early a couple of days or something like that. There might be an opportunity to negotiate that with your supervisor or your boss. I will say my experience has been that in general, that's usually pretty well respected in the workplace if you have open lines of communication. And so, obviously communicate professionally, but that might be something that maybe to, just Google like work-life balance versus work-life harmony. It's just an interesting, there have been some articles on that. It might be worth just putting an eyeball on, but yeah, just wanted to mention that one.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very interesting to look at. We'll have to look that up. Is there any questions from our audience for the panelists? I have one actually. So I am a fourth year audiology student. I'm in my externship. I'm getting ready to graduate. One of the things I feel like that we are asked so often, honestly, from grad school and in undergrad is, what do you want to do when you're done? What population do you want to work with? What setting do you want to work with? All of that. What advice do you have for people who I fall into this category of where I am quickly approaching graduation and I still don't know what my answer is to that question?
I think it's okay. I don't know how we've shifted to this place where we have this expectation of students to know. Yeah, even as you approach your externship, to me, you're still in a graduate program and you're still learning about what you like and what you don't like. And so every opportunity should be that in which you're going to learn something new. And I think that's maybe the frame to go with it. Even if someone asks you, um, to try to put you in a box, just say, I'm still open to learning as much as I can about this profession because there's a lot to learn about it. And so and I know that again, as people are looking for externships, particularly in audiology, like, that happens really early in the process. And it's competitive and all of those things. And so my advice is just to try to be, especially if you don't know, to just express that, and that you want to try to continue to learn as much as you possibly can while you're in this environment, where you have, preceptors and supervisors and can explore different things and even be open to, if you think, again, you only want to work with adults or you only want to do cochlear implants, that, maybe I'll actually go and do, a VA where I'm, doing something with falls and vestibular stuff. Think about the breadth of the scope of practice and where you have opportunities to fill holes that you may, still not be feeling even, very comfortable about or confident about. And that's really where it should be in terms of, the next learning opportunity, even if it is your externship.
Thank you. I think Rachel has a question if you would like to ask that.
Yes, so my question is how important was like networking and attending conferences? I know that's a very big part of the profession, but as an undergraduate student, sometimes I kind of feel like I'm not doing much of anything. So it's kind of like how important was like the networking and seeking out like mentors and things like that? How did that impact your growth as a professional?
It was critical for me, for sure. And what I would say is, I would say is maybe start small. You don't necessarily have to be serving on, a big national board or something like that at the student level. I can promise you that your state associations are happy to connect with you and they have volunteer opportunities for you, even if it's serving on a state level, committee for their convention or something like that. There are a lot of states that do have some sort of mentorship type program. As you guys know, we have national level opportunities as well through NISLA. But no, I think, well, like we've mentioned, there were opportunities that kind of came to us. A lot of times those opportunities are coming to us in part because of like mentored relationships that we've established, or we made a connection because we showed, maybe this site or this company that, hey, like there's somebody that can be trusted and they do great work. The mentorship and the connections that you can make through just showing up and being present at things like state associations, national conventions, getting involved when you can. I personally think they're priceless. I do not think I would be where I am today without them. Yeah.
I agree. Relationships are everything. I know that every opportunity that I've had is connected to somebody that I have a relationship with, period. I think as an undergraduate student, you can start where you are at your university. I can tell you, I maybe have, when I'm teaching hundreds of students, there might be a handful that will come to office hours or come and chat with me after class or as I'm passing in the hall or whatever. Those are opportunities for you to even establish relationships with your faculty and staff that are right there that aren't necessarily connected to the classroom. And then when you show that type of interest, when you show up, then they'll naturally be like, oh, have you thought about this opportunity? Or if something comes their way, they'll think of you and connect you in a way that might not happen if you didn't have some sort of relationship with them. And so just using even that space as an opportunity to, build your relationships with your faculty that you have at your university and beyond, like when you go on to graduate school as well. ASHA, NISLA have, mentoring programs where you can get connected at no cost. It's, now all virtual to a plethora of professionals across the country and in different areas that, you can learn more about things that you might be interested in or just having a connection with someone else. So, but my piece of advice is, just, try to form deeper relationships, even with the faculty and staff that you have right there, at your institution.
Yeah, and I really like it being framed that way as just considering relationship building as opposed to connections. I think that can feel very transactional, like you're trying to meet people for a specific purpose somewhere down the line. I think just as you go through school and through your career, just considering that everybody you meet, you never know how they might be important in your life in the future. And so just treating people well, treating people with respect, and being curious about them. Really learning from everyone. I think it can be easy again, especially I think the start of your career to, for good reason. I think we have to, in some ways, become narrowly focused because, like what you were saying, Kensley, you're being asked to choose. You have to pick, and so we try to specialize. We try to, really kind of focus our energy. But I've been so surprised so many times by the directions I've gone in my career, the people I end up working with, the people from my past that I come back to and who have helped me, or they've reached out to me for help. So, I really I think just thinking of it more that way is building relationships. And yeah, you just never know what might come around that will help you or where you can help somebody else down the line.
Well, thank you all so much for participating in our panel today. We really appreciate the chance to hear about y'all's career information and just giving us different insights on your different phases as students and as you've been in your CSD journey. We just really thank you for your time and advice. Everyone, please, we're running out of time for our panel, but like we said in the chat, now is a great time to connect with all three of these people on LinkedIn or anything like that. They are wonderful resources. So, if you have any questions, reach out to them and continue to foster those relationships. But truly, thank you all again for joining us. It has been so insightful to hear from y'all.
Happy to do it.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, guys.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Alrighty, so remember you can always email national or NISLA at asha.org if you have more questions or engage with us in the National NISLA member community. We want to give you a few more resources for the fall, and we will make sure your SSOs include these in a follow-up email. Thanks to the support from AMN Healthcare, we are so excited to launch chapter grants. These grants will provide at least one chapter per region with up to $500 to support activities that benefit your chapter members and communities. Additionally, information about this program will be shared via email, and applications are due October 4th. We'd love to invite you to create for National NISLA. We have lots of different opportunities to get yourself or your chapter featured. Everything from relatively light lifts like a microblogging efforts to creating video content to help your fellow CSD students understand how your chapter runs. Scan the QR code and fill out the form, and we'll reach out to you with details about how to get involved. As we mentioned in our breakouts, we just launched a brand new resource, the CSD Student Advocacy Hub. These web pages allow you to guide your chapter members through foundational advocacy info and ways to take action. It also has some very practical tools like meeting ideas, scripts, and downloadable resources like a PowerPoint, flyer, and social media templates. Please check it out and let us know what you think. Don't forget that Fall Student Advocacy Day is coming up on October 22nd. National NISLA partners with ASHA to encourage students, NISLA members, and chapters to submit Take Action letters to their members of Congress through ASHA's Take Action website. In November, join us at the 2026 ASHA Convention in Indianapolis. Our planned events can be seen on the slide, and we are so excited to host these student-driven events. If you're looking for a way to get to Indy, apply for the National NISLA Travel Award. 4 students will be awarded 1 convention registration and $500 for travel expenses. The link to the application is now in the chat. Thank you to AMN Healthcare for sponsoring this amazing opportunity. Our Executive Council has a couple of sessions that are in support of National NISLA. Please add them to your convention schedule if you can attend. Also, this fall, the National NISLA Undergrad Scholarship application opens September 1st, and we'd love for you to share with your chapter members about our undergraduate scholarship. It's open to National NISLA members who are undergraduate sophomores and juniors. We have more information about the scholarship on the NISLA website, so please encourage all undergraduate students to apply. We'd like to once again thank our sponsor, AMN Healthcare, for their participation in this event. We are so incredibly grateful for your attendance. Here's the contact information for our key speakers today. This event has been recorded and will be shared out to everyone in the next day or two. Please complete the event survey that we are putting in the chat so we can continue improving our program. Again, thank you all so much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.